Hello and welcome to the Jungle Brothers podcast. I am Paul Photophilie. Tiora Ward isn't with us right this moment. I have with me in my company my good man Joey. Say hi.
Hey, how are you guys? Today's episode. Fuck, it's been a long time since we've recorded, eh?
A lot's happened. It's been about 6 months or something.
Man, I think it's been longer. I don't even want to really think about it, but it feels like it's been a year. Maybe it hasn't been, but we've moved gyms in that time. We've got a dope new spot now still in Botany.
It's the one. It's unreal. I love it in here.
I don't think when we recorded last time that all three of us were full-time in the business either. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know if you were.
Yeah, potentially no. Either way, I've been here.
Yeah.
It's been a year now. I'm loving it, my new role. It's been a steep learning curve, but far out. Lots to be thankful for.
Fuck yeah, man. Good times. So, yeah, look, today's episode we had, we extracted some absolute gold. We had Emmet Lewis, a.k.a. the Splits Wizard, back for his second visit at the Jungle Brothers gym.
All the way from Dublin.
Dublin. You're a man. He was again full of heaps of golden info. So for anyone looking to increase mobility, even like on the bodyweight strength side of things and the gymnastic stuff, he's just a fucking smart dude and full of quality banter. So naturally, he got along with us just fine.
He's a very good coach. Like he knows his stuff technically, but he can also deliver it. He's Irish. He's good with people, eh? So
yeah.
He can bring it on your level.
Super chill.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been doing online coaching with him since we recorded with him last year, or not long after that, because I was like, oh, this guy's a legend, and I've been enjoying the shit out of that. So yeah, it was really good to get him back in and have him in the new space. Look, heaps of classic info in today's episode. Look, a couple other things to let you guys know about. Coming up at JB's, we've actually got a whole bunch of stuff happening next month. 14th, 15th of April, we've got Yuri Malmsteen back in the house, the red bearded acrobat, which is a name that I made up for him.
I thought that was
yeah,
known out there.
Nah, I just did it because it makes sense. But he's coming back for his second visit here. He'll be teaching a 2-day workshop. So if you want info on that, it's on our Facebook page. We're co-hosting the event, or you can reach out to us personnel. Also in April, 21st, 27th, I am going to Bali to represent the Jungle Brothers to run a retreat with some friends of ours from the Human Evolution Lifestyle Project, HELP. They do a lot of Wim Hof type stuff, a lot of ice baths, a lot of meditation, yoga work, and I'm bringing the JB strength and movement side of things. So we're doing like a 6-day event in a fucking beautiful 5-star resort type place in Bali. I think there might still be a couple of spots left. So if you're down for the ultimate like kind of escape with a bunch of training and flexibility and just good times and recharge, hit us up. And then the weekend I get back, which is the 28th to 29th of April, we've got Rafe Kelly, Evolve, Move, Play. He's flying out, I think, from the US, and he's going to be doing his thing, 2-day workshop. I don't know if you've seen much about that photo.
I cannot wait for that. Yeah.
Run through trees and shit?
Yeah. I've seen a bunch of his YouTube stuff, and I've also seen a few interviews, heard a few podcasts with him. He's a really super intelligent guy who likes to break things down and make sense of them and deliver them and spread the good word to people. He's like, imagine parkour through trees.
That's his jam, eh?
Yeah, but he's a family man as well. So he's a lot about tribe, just like we are here. Interaction with kids and raising them right and rough housing. He has strong opinions on all that stuff, and nutrition as well. So anyway, I just can't wait to be running through trees.
Yeah, his YouTube stuff is fucking cool. So if you haven't checked him out, go have a look.
He's a legit parkour guy who kind of, started in the urban scape and then ended up in the trees.
All right.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. I can't wait to wrestle with the guy. He's into the rough housing, right? Same shit. A couple of things happening in the gym. Our permaculture garden, which is going to be happening out the front, we got our plans in just the other day, so the build's going to start soon.
That is exciting. Yeah, there's grand plans. Who was it? Our man, Aiden.
Also your man.
Also your man, yeah. what does he do?
I think he's a landscaper. Yeah.
Landscape architect.
Yes. Yeah, his hands don't get dirty, but he designs beautiful stuff.
But we got the full CAD drawings in. It's looking amazing. There'll be a mad ecosystem, and Tiora he'll be unplugged.
He'll be disappearing from the rest of his life duties for a few weeks for sure.
He loves it.
Yeah, if anyone out there has ever spoken to Tiora about permaculture, you may not have lived to be able to tell the tale because these conversations don't stop. But
you go to his Instagram and check out his garden there. He's got posts there with his kids and stuff.
It's cool as fuck.
He's good at that.
Yeah, it's dope. And our grappling program just kicked off. I think we're in like 5th or 6th week. We're adding a few more classes as of next week, so that's actually super dope. The fight, lift, move, philosophy of the JBs is taken even gone to greater depths. We've got people wrestling now, which is sick. I want to give a quick shout out. Sponsors, we're fueled. DeLuca Coffee. Our man Lucas trains here at the gym, runs one of the dopest coffee shops in Botany. In fact, I'm going to say straight out the dopest. And roastery out the back, so it's all his own thing. He's in Sumatra right now sourcing beans, and I've been following his Instagram stuff. Yeah, no joke.
No, I know.
He skydives, and he goes to Sumatra, surfs big waves, sources beans, and he runs a coffee shop here, and he's got a family, and he trains in the gym like a fucking beast. So he's a man that I respect. He's fueled us with the filter coffee in today's episode, so big shout out to him. You can check their stuff out, delucacoffee.com. Also, our sponsors, Primal Collective, they keep us dosed up on the goodness of the marine algae oil, the grass-fed ghee, the turmeric tabs, the roasted crickets. There's a whole bunch of good stuff we get from them. Primalcollective.com. Check those guys out if you're looking for some healthy superfoods. And then lastly, reach out to us if you want any help with your training, if you're looking for a new tribe, if you're looking for some guidance, whether it's in person, online, whatever. We're always open to have a chat, and we welcome new people coming into the tribe. Just get in touch with us via the webpage, which is junglebrothers.com, or you can hit us up on Instagram, which is Jungle Brothers Movement, or on our Facebook page, also Jungle Brothers Movement. And let's talk, friend.
The tribe is strong right now.
Very strong.
Very strong. Okay, well, let's get into it, hey?
Yep.
All right, Emmet Lewis. See you.
Last year?
I think, what was the last one? I think Eurocup was the last one, but then there's been a few Skype interviews that are floating around.
Yeah.
So, not sure that counts as a podcast. I kind of count this setup as a podcast, and a Skype interview as a video chat Skype thing.
Yeah.
So.
It's funny though that even the low quality production still goes just as far sometimes, doesn't it, from like an exposure or marketing perspective?
Yeah. It's kind of it's basically what I do with my videos. Like, let's face it, the quality is shit. Like, my sound is shit. My camera is pretty good, but I can't use it, so that's shit. I spent like so much money. I get so many complaints. My voice is quite hard to pick up on a mic anyway. And then I get so many complaints like, your sound is shit. I spent so much fucking money on mics and shit.
I've seen that actually. I was gonna comment the same, and then I saw someone was like, your audio sucks. And you were like, I'm doing everything I can, man. We got the gear.
But it's like, I've got someone in touch with me. It's like, oh, you have to get this, and all this shit. I was looking at about $5,000 worth of equipment. I'm not a YouTuber. It's not like an Instagram thing. I just like putting stuff online to help people.
Yeah.
So then I'm like, maybe.
Dude, I think it's time for you to seek sponsorship on that shit.
Yeah. Anyone out there listening, just,
Yeah. I think it's time to blag your way into some free mics and audio gear.
Yeah. What I figured out lately is Tom Merrick, the bodyweight warrior on YouTube, can make better videos than I can. So now I just kind of offload whenever I see him, I'll make a video, and then he'll do it and make it nice.
What, has he been like copying your videos?
No. So I know he's a really nice guy. He's on YouTube. Makes a lot of videos anyway. He's more of a YouTuber than me. But every time we've recorded something and he's edited it really nice. I can't edit for shit.
Yeah.
The sound is good, and then it gets out that way. Saves me having to record it properly.
That's smart. It's actually been like for us the podcast side of things is easy enough, but the video side of things is a fucking ball breaker.
Yeah.
Like it takes so much time to be able to edit and do it well, and Paul's the only one of us that can do it. He kind of does every other thing.
Must run all the shit.
So Emmet,
Yeah.
just for people that don't know you, what do you do?
What do I do? That is a great question. I really can't answer that anymore. So in my public persona, I basically teach people to touch their toes more effectively. Let's sum it up what it is. In general, I teach a system of flexibility training that I figure that I've collated from a lot of sources, and then I share that. And then I use everyone else that I train privately as my test subjects, and I try to make it more effective so it gets better. It's the gist. But then it's kind of, with private plans, what else do? We train acrobatics, we train handstands, we focus slightly more towards circuit skills, we do strength training, I teach people internal martial arts to a certain degree. A lot of things in there, but a lot of things like the public face is more the flexibility stuff. So if you look at it, it's what people struggle with the most. People, we know how to get strong, it's well done in most places. We know how to get fast for people who want to be fast. No one really knows how to make adults flexible. That's the kind of thing. People have pieces, but no one really has the whole picture.
Yeah.
I don't even have the whole picture. If anyone else says they have the whole picture, they're lying. They know that for a fact.
Yeah.
But
why is that though? Just in terms of, because I guess some of the stuff that you teach has been around for a long time.
Yeah.
You mentioned in your workshop. Has there not been enough time to work with adults, or?
I think so. The problem is with flexibility training, more so than other training, is really it's multivariable. Like all our training, like one person will respond to one type of flexibility training, which on paper you could get two people who are identical, same age, height, training experience, levels of current range of motion, same joint range of motion, so they should have the same flexibility potential. And you'll give them both the same program, and one of them will make progress and one of them will regress. If you pick these same athletes and said, okay, they have all the same back squat, front squat numbers, but been training 5 years each, and they do the same in all your strength testing and everything else, and you go, okay, we'll give them the same strength program. Both of them will make progress and probably about the same progress. But there's still a bit of that in strength training, whereas flexibility training, one of the main things I come up against, more so than anything else, is people going, I'm not flexible, so I can't be flexible. I can't do yoga because I'm not flexible. Like these kind of limiting things.
Kind of thing.
Yeah, where it's like, I had a good lesson in this. There was one girl I was training, or two kids for a private, she wanted to do side splits. She was,
Emmet,
yo,
can you step a few inches closer to the
Okay.
mic, please?
better.
Yeah, you don't have to cobble it there.
We're not doing this.
There you go.
So
Okay,
I had,
cool.
I had one girl that came in private who wanted to work on side splits. She came in, she had textbook square front splits cold, which is rare. She had fucking amazing bridge. She had over pancake, butterfly, and she was just like, I can't do side splits. And she's about 40 centimeters off the ground, 30 centimeters. Looking at all the other bits and pieces she had, she should have side splits, because if you have all those other things, if you have this good front split, you have a good pancake, side splits is in there somewhere. But she's like, I can't do side splits, I never can, my joints don't move that way. So performed a couple of tests on her just to show her, look, this is your femur and your pelvis, this side split works this way, hip scour test and everything. I convinced her, and then I just kind of commanded her CT Fletcher style to do a side split. And she just went completely flat, dropped 40 centimeters with no wall, no nothing, just like, and then it was like flat. I was like, all right, 15 minutes into the session, what else do you want to do? And she's had it like forever since. So we don't really come up against that. You do a bit in strength training, but it's easier to psych someone up into strength training. Like if someone's going to go for a big squat, everyone has their own psych up. If you really want to rattle a few slaps, we know this works.
Sniff some salt.
Yeah, sniff some ammonia. Do what you got to do, but it works. Whereas if you do that for flexibility, it doesn't work. But if someone has this limiting belief, then you could do all your end range strength, all your yoga, whatever fucking style of flexibility you want. It will not work.
It's an interesting thing. So you just told the girl to get deeper?
I told her, like, explained to her just basically, you know, your hips function perfectly for side splits. You have a good pancake and a good split, and a good tailor's pose. Like, you know, if we, you know, look at all this. You know, your pelvis is right, femurs are in alignment, they're perfectly 180 degrees. You can do this. And just go like, no, I can't do it. I was like, trust me, like, I believe that you can do this. Just try it. And then if you can't, we'll look at it. But you can. And, you know, kind of bullied her.
Tony Robbins style.
Yeah. But then she could. But it was like instant. It was just like, boom. Whereas other people, like, I could have done with her, just as an example, because she tried some of the stuff I put online before, as well as, like, every other style. She's done pole dancing, was her thing. She tried every other style of flexibility training, like all the videos online of various people's courses. She tried, you know, in person, other stuff. But she still just got this belief that she couldn't do side split, but it just wasn't possible for her body.
Yeah.
Whereas,
That's kind of how I feel about it.
yeah, it's coming.
Yeah.
Whether you want it or not.
I command you.
Yeah, but same with like my PA Mary, who trains with me as well. She had like this big belief that she couldn't get flexible for a very long time. It wasn't as instant as that. But until she got to this point where flexibility training just hurt her because she'd resist it, and it just wasn't working. She was actually regressing for quite some time. But until she got to the point where we found the type that she enjoyed, that she could do, and which I wouldn't consider optimal training. But when she could start enjoying it, then the flexibility came very quickly. So, like, no one enjoys squats, but you still get stronger from it. If you don't enjoy your flexibility training, you're going to regress and not progress.
Because you won't embrace it.
Yeah.
So there's a what you're saying is that there's a psychological element to stretching.
Yeah, I strongly believe that, more so than, it's kind of like why I've shifted the focus. So you guys on the workshop the weekend, but I've shifted the focus to explaining the flexibility as a task the body has to achieve. And then once it learns how to do the task, the range of motion becomes available. Now we have to use all these end range strengthening, isometric style techniques and dynamic techniques to teach the body, to educate it about what it's doing. But if we take that covers the psychology of it. That's just like, we're just trying to learn a new skill.
Mm.
Oh, now we can do it. Can we do it a bit better? A bit better in this context and go a bit deeper. Whereas if you don't have that, if you don't have this context of trying to actively go deeper and the ways to do it, then your body will just clamp you down. It's kind of like, how to describe it? So Kit Lachlan always describes flexibility as in strength training, we have these range of motion, our body is used to it. You're stepping into the unknown, so to speak. You're at the edge of the map, and you get up to your end of your range of motion. Then when you go beyond that, you're into the unknown. And for a lot of people, like, one of the things that scares us is the unknown. Like, what's our fear? It's not like, oh, yeah, bungee jumping and shit like this, but it's not the bungee jumping, it's what happens after we jump.
The feeling.
That's the fear, like,
Yeah.
you know, I don't know if you guys bungee jumped or anything like that.
I did it once, check myself.
Yeah, see?
Yeah.
The unknown, but you basically gone in, and now you can bungee jump again, probably. You know?
I guess. I still don't want to.
Yeah. But it's like,
There's something interesting there, though, that I think probably a lot of people don't understand about training in general, but definitely very relevant to stretching, is that you're working, like, we tend to think of it as just a mechanical thing.
yeah,
So you're just like putting pressure on certain tissues and they're becoming longer, and that's allowing you to express more range of motion. Whereas like what you're talking about is it's more of a neurological thing.
yeah,
So like for me, myself, like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I probably never even thought of how my nervous system had control of what I could do.
yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's definitely, well, we have a few things going on, because that's the thing, that's what I'm saying, it's always multivariable. It's very hard to get an actual true passive stretching. Like, if I try to purely passively stretch, if any of my body is free floating, then the joint, once it approaches the end range, will become active on an EMG. If you look at what they have to do in, say, the birdwing studies, they were splinting these wings and fixing the birds, like pinning them down to fix them in place to give a pure mechanical loaded stretch, pure passive stretch. Same with like when they're stretching calves and some thing they were looking at. Mechanical loading, as we know, is a factor for hypertrophy, so they're comparing stretching, I can't remember the name of the paper, of the calves to get hypertrophy, but to get a purely inactive EMG stretch, they had to put the guys into a leg press machine, support the back of their legs so nothing's free floating, and then kind of wedge them in place. Whereas if I think about doing my classic calf stretch, like a single leg calf stretch off a bench, my whole torso is floating around to a certain degree, even if I'm holding on to something.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of that. Like people think, oh yeah, passive stretching. Well, let's say pancake, and system floor goes forward. Oh, I'm hanging out passive stretching. You're not actually, because some of your torso is floated. If it was purely passive, then your torso wouldn't need to be supported.
Like if you were lying on a Swiss ball or something like that,
Yeah.
or over a bunch of pillows.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, yeah, so over a bunch of pillows is the classic stretch therapy one, or yin yoga uses it a lot, where they like surround you with cushions and pillow, and then it's a purely passive stretch.
Yeah.
But if we look at most our stretching methodologies and the way people set them up, they are set up some way that is going to have some active requirement. But because they haven't really got the intention, which was I was talking about a lot in the seminar, then it becomes very slow. Whereas the way we look at it, if we have this intention, either to come out of the stretch or go into, so progress or regress into the stretch, whatever you want to call it, then your body starts learning and the nervous system starts getting more information about what it wants to do. Then we use the task-orientated feedback of like, oh, here's a task, you've achieved it, congratulations, have some dopamine, do it again. Then it becomes much better, but it also takes out this whole, the internal interoception side of stretching, which is, in some ways, is, how to describe it, it's a lot of people just don't have a good feeling in their body. It really should. It's like, you try this yourself at home. Can you feel the difference between your 6th and 7th rib? Can you feel the intercostal space between the 3rd and 4th? You could if you practice it, but if something starts going weird there during a stretch, if we put something exterior to your focus, then you'll begin to go, you'll ignore all this weird signals in your body. Your body goes, task, achieve it, objective, goal. That kind of works. We know this like from most psychology things. If you have a clear goal that you can achieve, you'll get there. Whereas if you just have a vague goal of like, I want 10 million in the bank. We all want 10 million in the bank, but like, how are you actually going to do it? And we looked at all the tasks we achieved, it's like, very simple. You can try this at home if you're listening in. Sit down in your pancake, try to touch something on the floor, come out a little, try to touch a centimetre beyond that. These are incremental step goals. If we think about like, I want to make 10 million a year, well, maybe aim for 100,000 a year first. Then you can think, I'll try to get 150,000. That kind of way, then it becomes realistic.
Yeah.
Do you think that, sorry, Paul, after you.
No, you go ahead.
I think that the passive stretch with the pillows, getting somebody into these positions is a good segue into convincing the nervous system to accept a deeper stretch. Because you're talking about this psychological barrier that a lot of people have is like nerve relative. How do you go about getting over that barrier? Because I'm guessing there would be people who suffer from maybe they've had some kind of traumatic experience or they've been in car crashes and stuff like that. They're a lot more protective over their body than others. I'm guessing their nervous system would be a little more sensitive and more protective. Do you have a way of dealing with?
That really comes down to client psychology and how they actually express this. So we always have to remember, as I say, the 3 W's. Who are we speaking to? What do they want to do? Where are they in relation to these goals? So if you're doing your client interview and you're trying to just understand someone's motivation for it, generally their motivation is always wrong when they start, but it becomes better. But you still have to get through it. It's like, I want to be flexible. You speak to them, well, what do you actually do? Actually, I want to chase my kids around the park and not feeling pain when I wake up. Different goals. But say someone who is really protective of their body. One, knowledge is very empowering in this thing. We know this from modern pain science as well. But just in general, if we really know what we're trying to do and understand it, it's been well explained to us in a way we can understand. So, we don't, if someone has no anatomical background, explaining the Ruffini type endings and pennation angle and all the shit that just plays over, well, you kind of explain what they're doing. Then you just have to regress the stretch to the point where it's got a task that they can achieve that is within their goals. and then let them play with it. It's one of these things. I do like the purely passive. If someone is really stretch resistant, then setting them up with the cushions is like that. But I find, particularly with the people like I deal with, you guys would, it's the slow route, but sometimes you need to do it. Whereas you can kind of play with this, and once people get like, it's this question of the unknown. They're trying to go into the unknown. They're scared because they don't know what will happen. So maybe we don't need to push them into the depths of the stretch. We just let them explore. It's kind of like has anyone ever had a pet cat? You get a pet
I have
kitten.
one.
You get a pet kitten.
Fucking hate cats.
I love cats.
I don't like her. I have one, but I don't like
Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay, I won't use this one. No, if you have
her. The cat ended up dying.
it does sometimes. But if you have like a pet kitten and you want it to start going outside the house, you leave the door open. It's going to go outside the house a little bit and run back in. Keep going now. It could, potentially just run a whole mile away, but it won't. It will slowly explore.
It's that map. That
Yeah, it's the sensory map. Just like, what can my body do? It's the same one. Like, I'm sure you guys get the exact same. People come in, they start doing BJJ, and they're terrified of hurting themselves for the first time. So you don't throw them straight into rolling with like a purple belt who just wants to wreck people. You kind of like will give them someone who'll go gentle. You give them a controlled technique that you're just going to get in. You're just going to try this out. There's no variety. There's no randomness. You're just doing this. As they get better and get a vocabulary, then you can start to push them a bit further. But up until then, a lot of people think they're made of glass in some ways, and you kind of have to, tap on the glass a bit to the point where they realize actually it's not going to break. That's kind of it's like, particularly people like that population will be new to training. If they're new to training or had a very long break, you don't really need to stretch them. You just need to train them, let them move, joint rotations, press ups, squats, full range chin ups, and then after they've done that for some time, then you can think about stretching them. But it gives them like, okay, this is a very familiar exercise. Everyone knows what a chin up is. Everyone knows what a push up is. Then you can start building on that. You give them some sensation in the body and go, oh, okay, it didn't break off that 20 rep squat workout. Bit of stretching won't help.
Emmet, I wanted to ask you. I missed before I was putting some food on. You were talking about like what you do, and I wanted to ask you like, can you give us a bit of a timeline of how you came to where you are now? Because I know you're involved in acrobatics when you were younger.
So let me see timeline. So
where were you born?
I was born. That's a great question. I was born in Dublin. So I was in Dublin for quite some time. In primary school and secondary school, the first one we had, the PE teacher would also teach gymnastics and sort of acrobatics on that.
Yeah.
So I learned that. Then I moved to a different secondary school that didn't have that program. But I took up rollerblading, like extreme sports, jumping downstairs, parkour on wheels, basically. It was like, it's kind of
a way cooler way to put it, eh?
Yeah, once you got it, parkour on wheels is cool. It's not just gay rollerblading. So,
were you any good at that?
At the time, I'd be good. Compared to how the level is now, it's fucking amateur hour.
But you were doing rails and stuff like that?
Yeah, I was doing rails and jumping down like 15 stair sets and shit like that. So, I was doing that. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Then...
No, I'm not even taking it.
That's the kind of thing. It's like skateboarding ruined rollerblading. Like, if you look at, people go online and look at what people are doing now, it's fucking insane. And it's just like a complete, total, forgotten fringe sport.
Yeah.
Just like people pulling double backflips with like 2 twists down fucking 30 foot. Like, they're getting pulled into the stair set by a car to get the speed up to go down and do that. Like,
it's like skateboarding now. That's just it's on steroids at the moment.
Yeah,
it has been for some time.
Yeah, skateboarding's gone like this weird. It's very creative now. It's not so much the big shit, but it's a lot of like.
That's true.
You've seen
true.
Like
yeah. I've definitely noticed it. We were skaters when we were young, and I watch it closely, and it got to a level. It's so technical. People like flip in, do a flip while I'm in the grind, then I'll flip out. And then it just got so technical that it was just a bit boring. And now it's like more artistry and how you can use the space, come up with something different. I love it now.
No,
It's true, right? And the body, like there's almost a bit of an acro element to it.
Totally.
For a lot of guys.
yeah, there's some dude, I can't remember his name, but I was really impressed with one of his videos seeing skateboarding where he looks like your stereotypical 1960s hippie. Big
I've seen the
mustache,
video.
flares,
I know which one you're talking about.
paisley shirt.
Yeah, he does that slide where he like gets a little slippery
Yeah.
kind of plastic sign. He puts his hand down and like slides with a little bit of a hand slide.
Yeah, and it's done like, he's obviously very fucking good, but everything he was doing was like, how the fuck did you think of that? He
Yeah.
was like smoking a lot of weed that day.
Yeah. So that was you on rollerblades
So,
smoking
rollerblades.
weed back in 19.
No, we only had hash back in Ireland.
Okay,
Yeah.
alright.
Shit stuff. But
Yes.
I was doing that. Then I went to university that was doing studied physics and chemistry, theoretical physics. And I dropped out of that because it was boring. And also taking up juggling. I was performing in nightclubs at this stage. Doing fire shows. It's very cringy now when I think back of it, but I was boss back in the day. But then I was like, oh fuck it, I can make a career out of this. I went to one circus school called Circuit Media. Then I done 1 year course there. Then I went to Circus Space in London, which is National Centre of Circus Arts, where I done another degree. Then I was performing for, I don't know, about 8-9 years. But then I broke my wrist, which meant I couldn't perform anymore. I couldn't actually do anything. My wrist it's okay, but it's still slightly fucked.
Yeah.
So then I was like, I couldn't even do a push up. That's how bad it was, or a chin up. I couldn't like grip. So I was like, gone for 2 years. So I was like, oh shit, I gotta make some money. What's the easiest way for an acrobat to make money? Personal training.
Yeah, sure.
But then, so I was just doing that for 2 years. Had business in London. It's going good. But then more and more people were seeking me out, based on the back of like gymnastics bodies getting popular. This was before they released Foundation. Kind of Edo was beginning to get on the scene, but people were like wanting the acrobatics, the non-circus, because I was always training circus people,
Mm-hmm.
but it was the non-circus people who were wanting the acrobatics, the handstands, the flexibility. So then I got that, but then I just got more into coaching flexibility because like strength training and acrobatic training, for me it's quite straightforward. And I think it's, we control volume, we control load, we progress as much as we can, we pick the thing. We've been doing it like quite a long time now, so that's easy. But flexibility, I like 5-6 years ago, I would have said, oh yeah, flexibility can be programmed the exact same way, but it can't. That's what I'm finding out over the last few years. I'm constantly learning new things.
So that was intrigue there for you.
Yeah, it's kind of like, it's all this thing, like all the research on flexibility is just shit. It's really shit. But
Just on that, were you saying it's because they do it on like untrained populations?
it's a mix of things. Like I had a comment on my Facebook that I really strongly agree with in any field, that now that we have the facilities of it, particularly in sports or dance science or anything like that, we should take videos of the researchers or their assistants teaching the exercise of the program to the people taking part in it, and the coaching and cueing. Because you'll be able to watch that and you'll be able to see why some program didn't work and why something else did, and why the results got. Like, there's one say just squatting and stuff, I made the point on that. So, like, I've been to some workshops, some really advanced people got really big achievements. Saying the average thing, like I know powerlifting coaches in Dublin who would regularly, they'll get someone who has like 100 kg squat, 110, 120. And just by giving that person a technique session, just going through, do this, change that, change your stance, brace harder, blah, 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 they'll add 10, 15, 20 kg to someone's lift in 1 hour. If we look at the sports strength training science, they'll have people at that level and they'll make less than that increase in 12 weeks and they claim a positive result. Whereas like, well, did the person know how to squat effectively? Were they coached properly on how to squat to get an actual baseline? Or did their technique just improve over that time and they got more efficient so they could squat more? So that kind of thing, and that applies to flexibility training, where there's one paper I found recently where I was looking up some papers on ballistic stretching, where they compared ballistic stretching to static stretching over 4 weeks or something like this. Concluded the static stretching was more effective, fair enough. But the program they'd done was 9 exercises for 3 sets each with a minute pulsing or a minute static. So 27 minutes of work in an hour session. If someone had done 27 sets of pulsing stretching for the legs the way I coach it, they would not be able to walk the next day. Like that would just wreck them. Like literally, you would be totally fucked.
Yeah.
Whereas they rated that the static stretching caused more pain. Maybe it did in this population, can't tell. But until we actually see how that program was applied, what cues they're giving for the pulsing stretching and the static stretching, you actually can't make any judgment call on it. You can just go, okay, we have it on paper, but we do not know if these people can implement the program effectively.
So true.
And that's what happens in a lot of strength training. I'm just like, all their physical things, like, yeah, there's in strength training and cardiovascular training, it's a bit better because people have been doing it, there's much more interest in it over the years. So there is people are like universities where like say Loughborough in the UK, where people get really fucking good coaching on the hands-on side of weightlifting, squatting, benching. So you see a study come from there. You'll rate it slightly higher, whereas flexibility training, like I've met loads of these professors, I've named nameless, I've been to conferences, I've been to all this shit. Most of them aren't flexible. Most of them have never taken anyone who can't touch their toes and got them side splits. There's not this practical base, but you can find professors in strength training who have taken people with like 100 kg squat to a 200 kg squat. They were rare, but they do exist. But until you actually see videos of the program being implemented and what the coaches are like, what can you say about it? Like,
so true. Yeah, it's like, what's the difference between coming to, I don't know, you can go into a fitness class at some Globo gym somewhere, and they're teaching some bodyweight stuff and kettlebells, whatever, and it's super mediocre, and then you can go and do it somewhere like our gym, where there's high standards, quality coaching, the cues that suit the individual, and it's a completely different experience, isn't it?
Yeah.
And a different result.
Yeah.
Not to plug the Jungle Brothers.
No, you guys are
15 Underwood Avenue. But
yeah, get it.
We're plugging, but that's the thing, it's like effective coaching, particularly like we look at the current model for most papers, they follow the university term structure.
That's Tiora opening a packet of chocolate.
Peak chocolate.
He's off the coffee, guys, but he's eating the caffeinated chocolate like a motherfucker.
But it's behind his back. Behind his back, so it
looks
doesn't
like a
count.
toddler. Stuffing the chocolate.
Sorry, lost my train of thought. But
Universities?
Yeah.
Papers?
So the papers, they follow the university term structure, 8 to 12 weeks. It has to be submitted. We don't really know the person's history. Maybe the professor supervising it is really good. Maybe not. Maybe this person, like I remember when I was in university doing physics, one of the first things we were taught when we got a shit result was to doctor your results and doctor your data set to make it line up with what you wanted.
They taught you that?
They taught us how to do that. Professor
Why?
And then there's an interesting thing is one of the pieces of lab equipment was broken, got broken about halfway through the term, and people were expecting it to give like a nice logarithmic curve on whatever the fuck it was. But then people were getting wrong results in their lab work, and then everyone was just getting told, oh, you change it this way, change it that way. And no one thought, oh, maybe the equipment is fucked. Everyone assumed the equipment was fine, and that they were just not using it right. And then they were told, oh, you doctor your results, this is what it should look like. So
dangerous.
I know that goes on. I know, like I've heard this from other professors who are kind of working in biosciences, that this shit goes on. And it's like, then it's also the replication problem. Like most of your studies, the whole point of science is that I describe a method, that I got a result, and then I would like you and your team, who are different to me, to go off and repeat this method and see if you get a same or similar result. Then we can compare results. Then hopefully more and more people will do it. And then we can do a meta-analysis and then see did it actually work.
So if you wanted to do a study yourself and it was in, credible kind of setup, what would that look like? Because given that it's like you need to nurture people as well, and it's kind of psychological, as you say, you'd almost need to film. You need to film. Oh, you said that. You need to film like all the sessions.
You basically would need to do it. You'd also need to. The ideal flexibility testing for me would be taking sedentary adults and training them for 18 months on different programs. So one person would just get purely static stretching, one person would get pulsing, one person would get end range strengthening techniques. Then after 18 months of applying these with whatever methods of progress you want to use for them, then coming back and performing all your tests, that would give you a much clearer idea if things are working or not.
And then combinations.
Yeah, then you get into the infinite thing of like, if we pulse one thing, then do some ISO, it begins to get like, that's the other thing with like, say, the strength training testing. They'll test, say, one exercise and one method in a session.
Yeah.
Not all the time, but a lot of times just be like, okay, we'll test cluster training. Then it goes, oh, cluster training is effective. That's fine, but if you put it in a standard session with, say, 6 exercises, does it remain effective, or is it overload?
Yeah, yeah.
There's all these variables.
You know what I'd love to see is like you test someone end range closing or whichever technique.
Yeah.
You do 2 people exactly the same,
Yeah.
but one person, you film it and you're like, you'll never make it. I don't think you've got the structure for it, and your genetics, like I don't think that you're made to be flexible. And the other person who is in the next room who's the exact same genetics potentially, you're just encouraging them the whole time. I'd love to see where that would go after 18
That would be
months.
interesting to get some twins to do. Just like
Yeah.
You got some twins, don't you?
What?
You got a couple of students, twins?
No, Josh and Moore, they're brothers.
His brothers?
Yeah. They might as well be. There's 3 of them. There's the middle brother in there as well, slowly making coach, but come training.
Let's find some twins for you. Do it online.
Twins, if anyone wants it, I'll.
Yeah. Do these
They kind
exercises.
of, but they know what
your
we're going to
shit.
do now.
Yeah.
That's the problems.
We'll find some.
Well, we don't know which one's going to work, so it could be good for either.
That's right. So ring in.
So, Emmet, you train a lot of, what do you call the people that are like hypermobile, the contortionists.
Yeah, contortionists.
You're teaching like a contortionist to get more flexible than they already are.
Generally, I would say a contortionist is born, not made.
Yeah.
I'm not sure other people disagree with that, but for the very high levels of it, you're dealing with elite levels of flexibility, same as like elite level sprinting. They have to have certain type of fascia, they have to have very mobile. For a huge amount of them, I don't actually stretch them. They do no stretching. They only do range of motion strengthening work and like skill, like contortion skills, which is kind of end range strengthening as well. So they don't get really that. Now, other people say if we take someone who is flexible but not that genetic thing, they want to get super bendy, then we have to kind of max out everything, and that's where it's kind of one of those things like for general population, we don't try to do as little stretching as possible to get the results. For say the aerialists or pole dancers or people with high level of flexibility with me, then we kind of like have to throw everything in the kitchen sink at them to max out all the potential.
What would that look like?
So it would look like they would have specific workouts for different types of flexibility almost. So they'd have, say, one day loaded stretching, just like, say, splits. Say, we'll just do it for front splits. So they do over front splits, probably 2 different variations, maybe 3. So they might do...
Over front splits, just
So-
for the, like with the feet elevated?
Yeah, so say front leg elevated,
Yeah.
then either back leg up against the wall at right angles, or back leg elevated just straight with a back bend, done isometrically, so they're trying to build some strength. They'd also do the other side of that, like so standing leg scales to the front and side and back, maybe dynamic depending on the day, maybe weighted and not. Then maybe the next day, when they're nicely fatigued, we put them into pure passive stretching, so they're just like, okay, we're just going to sit and hang out the stretches. It sucks. I'm going to warn anyone who's trying that. It really sucks sensation wise. It was very fucking effective. It works very, very well. So to do that, then they'd have.
Because you're going to be sore from the day before, right?
It's going to be sore. It's a very interesting thing that I've spotted over the years is on the day after loaded stretching, a large percent of people, once they know how to relax through the DOMs, are actually more flexible, have greater range of motion than the day before. Which is very interesting because if you think this one of the things that has cued me on, I've seen enough people that I can say this quite confidently, is if we say stretching is purely strength based, the day after your workout, if your workout has been successful, you should be fatigued. You should not have as much strength. This is what we're looking for strength thing, instead of squatting. We do a fucking heavy squat day, next day we should be jacked, and then hopefully we'll surcompensate to a higher level. In flexibility, it's the other way around than a large percent of people. That's the thing, this is the thing I'd like to test out. If anyone's in a university and wants to get me into design studies, I'm game. Just plug that. But I see people will come in, they have to know how to breathe through DOMs. It's one of those things, our DOMs is just reaction to some muscle damage or.
For those that don't know the acronym, delayed onset muscle soreness.
Yeah.
So when you get sore after a training session, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, thanks. So they go in, but once you coach people through, it's just breathing, just breathe, relax. Maybe reduce leverage in the case of splits if you need to support the back and knee, whatever. But for most people, they will display more range of motion. And that's
After the first set?
Generally they need to do like a bit of a warm up. So the classic session on that passive one after loaded would be, do some joint rotations, we'll warm up, maybe let people foam roll if they want just to get some compression analgesia. And then we let them stretch.
What's the theory behind that?
Why
do you think that
this is the thing, it comes back to this task orientated thing that people have spent the day before. So think about it, you go and learn a skill and then the next day you're going to be better at it. And this is my theory, this is my working hypothesis on it. And maybe not hypothesis, it's my meta framework for the way of thinking about this. So because it's fresh in your mind, you're sore and a bit stiff just from doing the actual strength work in the ranges, but you still display more range of motion. Now for someone who isn't too used to their body, used to kind of like working through DOMs, then it's a bit uncomfortable, they won't really get it, but for more advanced people, it works.
Do you see any like long-term negative effects from like hypermobility? So dealing with, again, if we go back to like the elite, what happens to somebody when they have like this excessive range of motion in their body, and then they start to get old and the muscle starts to deteriorate and all the other things that happen when you get old?
It's one of those ones. It's like every sport. If you take a high-level rugby player who was in great shape and they stop training, they're going to be a bit beaten up. With the same flexibility if you're competing on the circus and other stuff, or not competing, performing circus or whatever acrobatics, gymnastics, you will be a bit beaten up if you've been doing this a long time. It is kind of like the rust in the system from doing sports. But a lot of this stuff can be mitigated by keeping up a baseline of your base conditioning. It's one of those things that I work with a lot of people who are hypermobile, hairless, downless, type 2 and stuff like that. And the classic physiotherapy advice for them is to not enter these hypermobile ranges, to stay out of them as much as possible. For me, that is a fallacy because just by life, you will end up in these hypermobile ranges. If you look at someone who even has hypermobile knees, on the posting phase of their stride, when they're going through, a lot of them will hyperextend the knee without even thinking about it. So we actually have to train people in these ranges gently to begin with, don't max them out. But once you're like, my knees hyperextend, okay, well, when you're doing a leg curl, we'll let you go a bit into hyperextension and then out of it. Obviously, you're listening and just trying out, you do test the water very gently with this, but it does build up. Like a lot of people have like back pain or neck pain that is related to this type of flexibility. And by getting them much stronger or much more control in their ranges or more experience of using it, then the pains disappear.
It's interesting.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So if your body can go there, you get strong there.
Yeah, if your body,
and then you just keep staying strong there as you start to come out of your career. Do you deal with any people coming out of the circus that are suffering from pain and looking for a way to?
Really, I generally if someone is in a lot of pain, I don't as I said, I don't really deal with pain. It just comes as a side effect of what we do. If someone's in a lot of pain, I'll just refer them out to. I know some good physios around the world who are used to dealing. That's the thing with physios. They're like, if you get a good physio, they're worth their weight in gold.
It's got a bit of everything.
Yeah, they're good, or if they're good with working with a certain population, I'm sure you guys know someone who can work with jits. You send them, they know the language, they know everything.
Yeah.
So if you have physios like that, just send them out.
Not that easy to find.
It's not that easy to find, but I have a few who just some of them do pure voodoo as far as I'm concerned. It works.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting idea. You mentioned, whether or not you, if you try to avoid going into that end range, whatever your end range is, you're going to get forced into it at some point anyway. Whether you're tripping over, fucking, chasing after your kid, or, and this is something that's been really prominent for us in the last couple of months since we started our grappling program, but that like a sport like grappling or jiu-jitsu will push you into ranges of motion whether you like it or not. And you'll fucking end up there. And, you know, usually it works out all right, but it's also probably why it has such a high injury rate, because there are times, small percentage, when it doesn't work out that well.
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of, that's a big part of our message, has been like, guys, understand that that's going to happen and do whatever you can to prepare for it.
Yeah, like it makes total sense. It's like, you know, the whole point of a joint lock is to basically find out what a joint does and then make it do the exact opposite. Like that's what we're trying to do. Oh, my elbow bends nicely into flexion. I'm going to overextend your elbow.
Yeah.
That's what's going to make you tap out. So you've got that kind of thing going on. So it's like, it's one of those, it's like I was saying to you guys, like, I've been trying to get someone to implement this judo idea I've had for quite some time, that we know isometric tensions of 30 to 90 seconds do build connective tissue. By putting people into joint locks and making them regress, like try to come out, resist against the lock, and try to deepen the lock, you begin to strengthen all the tissues crossing the ankles. So anyone's tried that out?
What we're talking about there, for those people that find that hard to visualize, it would be like well, you have to know, let's say an arm bar in this situation. So it's a typical jiu-jitsu lock where you're trying to break somebody's elbow. But you would have a person put you in an arm bar, and then under, you know, controlled intensity, they would take the arm bar to its end range, to the, just to the point where you're almost about to tap, right?
Yeah,
Maybe
basically,
90%.
you don't want to sink it deep. You just want to get to the point where they can still display power. Just have them push against it, like resist the lock.
Resist, try and bend the elbow again.
Yeah.
And 30 to 90 seconds in that position. And that will help you strengthen the joint and strengthen the connective tissue.
Yeah. Now you do have to be cautious on this, but I think it's one of those things that could be implemented very quickly in a class situation. You know, you put a wrist lock on me, I'll resist against it, do it once or twice a week. Twice a week would be optimal, I'd say, on this. Then you can just go, okay, we know our knees get beaten up, let's just try it on the knees. We know our wrists get beaten up, let's do it on the wrists. But I suspect it would cost. Also, it gives a lot of benefits. One, the person applying the lock can really spend the time trying to find the details to make it as efficient as possible. The person in the lock just gets spend a lot of time in there, so they know, hold on, I'm in, I can brace against it a bit, so I have some time to figure out an escape if I can.
Yeah.
Probably wouldn't try this on chokes now.
Just where you're about to pass out. Yeah. We did it, actually, we've experimented with it a bit in the last sort of 6 months. At our retreat last year we did some, and then a little bit in our grappling program, but really, kind of selling it as the idea of giving people a chance to understand what being in that final moment of a submission before you have to give up feels like. But then also, like you said, giving the person who's applying the lock a chance to understand what it's like to be there and what small tweaks or adjustments they need to make it work.
Yeah. I think it's like a genuine thing. I know it will work because we use the same thing in acrobatics and gymnastics. How do we strengthen all our ranges? We go into them in a controlled thing. So things like the basics of strengthening your elbow for planche. We start with things like front support. The elbow's turned out, locked, like go contracting the joint. Then we move on to say ring supports or ring flies, this kind of thing. We're slowly changing the leverage across the joint. That makes it more and more intense. But you don't throw someone like who's never done like the basic floor reverse grip, floor plank or planche lean. You don't really throw them into full range of motion, full straight body ring flies to begin with.
Yeah.
It's kind of, there's a progression method to this. Just with gymnastics acrobatics, we use equipment or we use exercises that kind of go up. With jitsu, just sink the lock a bit deeper.
Yeah.
Just apply a bit more pressure against it.
Yeah, I guess it gives you a bit more flexibility, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. I remember when we posted some videos about it, I showed this bunch of beginners getting stuck in heel hooks.
Yeah.
And I was like, guys, this is a heel hook. And I had all my jiu-jitsu friends reaching out on Instagram like, dude, you can't fucking teach beginners heel hooks. Which is like, you know, you got to do jiu-jitsu for like 10 years or whatever before someone teaches you a heel hook. But I was like, no, it's not about that. We weren't actually trying to kill anyone with it. We're just exploring. It's good.
It's reminding me, I was watching that Baz Rutten compilation I was watching recently. It's one of the fights that he done, it wasn't in UFC, it was pre-UFC, where he heel hooked someone but your man also kind of got him at the same time, so he just cranked the hook and took your man's foot off the end of his leg.
Oh.
You can see it was the moment when it's just like, oh, there goes all the ligaments separated.
Oh.
It wasn't bad.
Fucking pretty gnarly, eh?
Yeah.
Tell me, Emmet, you have the name of your. Is this your business name, the Silver Leap Project?
Yeah, it's kind of defunct now. It was basically me and my partner. We started off.
You have a partner?
Yeah, Elisa.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I didn't realize it. I thought.
Okay,
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
It's at the back end. But we started off like a few years ago. We're actually going to be doing more documentary style stuff, training around the world and kind of vlogging as well as making videos about it. But unfortunately, my mother's partner got sick with cancer and passed away. So we were in Thailand at the time. We had to go back to Ireland and spent a few months there hanging out with my mother. And thanks to them, the project got blitzed, but I was still running everything under that. Most of the stuff has now shifted onto just emmetbills.com. But still like the Silver Leap Project.
Where'd you get the name from?
Elisa and her friend had a couple of glasses of wine and came over.
Let's see. And she's doing Motion Impulse, right?
Yeah,
That's her jam?
Yeah, that's her thing. So she was organising my seminars, and then because half my friends teach systems or coaches, they were like, oh, we want to do seminars, but we can't organise this shit. So she was like, oh, I'll try, start doing it for a couple of people. Then more people were like, hold on, you've done that for Emmet, great, can you do it for us now?
Yeah.
And now she's gone off, like, it's gone crazy. Like, they're doing this year, so they have retreats with Tom Wexler. I don't know if you guys know Tom Wexler. Or people who've played with him, is very good sort of dancer, acrobat. They have retreats with Rafe Kelly as well.
Yeah.
I'm sure people are familiar with all who have played.
We're going to be coming down here next month.
Nice.
29th, yeah.
Yeah, I think I was actually hanging out with Simon Tucker this morning as well. So he trained at Surge as well. So
Yeah, right.
it's a nice guy. I think they're doing a retreat, which is non-motion impulse related, but still, their retreats, they sound pretty chaotic.
Is it
but
the
pretty
ancestral,
good. The ancestral movement,
kind
yeah.
of come down when you want? It's a
Yeah,
free flow.
it's pretty free flowing, but I think they get it's kind of not structured but unstructured. I haven't been to one, so anyone listening can correct me on this one has. But I was talking to one of the guys who'd gone, they were doing capoeira one day, they were doing forging, metal into shit, on a campfire.
Yeah.
They were doing tree climbing the other day, a massive mix, like basket weaving one year, hunting, like with bow and arrow, that kind of shit. So
That's cool.
It does look interesting.
So-
I think he has like an 11. Oh, I spoke to him. I met him last year, and he said they're about to go on one, and it's like 11 days where they go down, and people come and go. Like whether they spend all of it or part of it,
Yeah.
people come and go. But they have quite a few numbers throughout the period. But yeah, he said it's kind of, as you described, unstructured, and there's always something
structured
different
but
there.
unstructured.
Yeah.
Just,
There's no like set times. Like, we're up at 6 and we're doing Whitley. Yeah.
So there's that, but then the thing that I'm really interested in is, so Elisa started organising with this thing called Fan Munchen, so Free Arts of Movement Munich, which is a parkour group. They organised the first German movement convention, which was a weekend training. It was cheaper than like an education seminar, about €100 or something. But there was 30 different teachers with different classes. They had a big ass sports facility.
Wow.
Had everything like trampolining, parkour, dance, yoga, juggling.
Mad.
Even someone ran up just a spontaneous Rubik's Cube workshop. But it was kind of it was aimed at there's people like us who are fitness professionals who work in the industry, so we need to constantly kind of learning new stuff that we can apply. There's loads of people who want to do movement, but they don't want to go to an education seminar. They just want to hang out with cool people. And this is the thing that they're doing again this year, which is even bigger. But I think
It's a good idea.
no, it's a really good idea that you can have all these things going on and just build this whole movement community.
Yeah.
A lot of people I know everyone's a movement community. Community is used a lot of way just to sell you shit. To say it as it is.
Yeah.
So, but these kind of less formal events still have stuff going on.
It's quite accessible.
That is community rather than just we have an online community obviously, but let's face it, if you want to have a proper community, you need to have like in-people groups everywhere that is accessible.
Yeah. And shit going on.
Yeah, and
Making
shit going
stuff
on.
happen. Events like that.
I would go to an event like that. That'd be cool just to have access to all different professionals.
Well, actually, interesting you bring this up. After a few weeks ago, I went on a retreat in Queensland. It was an unplugged retreat, 4 days with a buddy of mine, John Marsh. Shout out John Marsh. owns a cool gym in Melbourne called Workshop. Legendary guy. But I was there with him. There's another fella, Vic Hawksley. Shout out Vic. He's got a gym in North Sydney.
Yeah, it was on Sunrise.
Yeah, Mr. Energy. But we were having a chat about some kind of event. It's like we invite. It's open forum. We invite people down. It goes for a day or a couple of days or whatever.
Yeah.
There's music. There's food. There's different kind of classes going on.
Yeah.
And it's kind of open to whoever.
Yeah.
It's a little bit structured, but it's a cheap buy-in, and it's the same kind of idea. It's just that we haven't really had anything like that in Australia, right?
Yeah. Now I can drop a hint. I can't say exactly what is going to happen, but I do
Give
have
us
the
the
inside
scoop,
word that Australia could be getting one of these movement conventions happening sometime quite soon. So
Sick.
I can't give any details other than that, but I've been hearing some
Let's beat him to it.
inside chat.
When is it?
But yeah, I think it's this thing is like it's coming from like the circus background. We have a lot of conventions in circus that are either for groups of shows that have like one town and a circus festival, which have a lot of shows and other stuff going on, so you get to meet people. But then we also have like circus and juggling conventions where it's like you'll come down. It can be anything from a 1 dayer to 10 days. Where you come down. It's all community led, which I think is cool. That it's just volunteers will organise it. Sometimes they'll be paid, sometimes not, depending on the setup. But then it'll be camping. The cost in will be quite cheap because they'll generally try to get it sponsored as much as possible. Then you'll have like a board of workshops every day. They'll try to have like big ass sports halls for these. Where you genuinely will have some of the best people in the world at their discipline. Just teaching, just because they want to share something. It could range from like, you'll get someone doing a 3-hour masterclass in advanced one-arm handstand stuff to someone going, learn to ride a unicycle for complete beginners.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, if movement community, I've said this a couple of times online, it's like if movement wants to move into a true community, it kind of needs this. But then it's the same like in circus. We have these level things, but then I can also spend like 1,500 quid to go train with someone for 5 days in a very intense, focused manner.
Yeah.
So we kind of cover, this is what makes the community. We can have people who are making a genuine good living from it, from being our community leaders, teachers, event organisers, venue owners, all this. And then we also have the stuff where people are like, oh, I love doing this, but I do it once a month for fun.
Yeah.
We have to have like place for
Different levels.
all these people in between, and then we have a true community that will remain and not a bossy wall.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, yeah, that's right. It's not to discredit like paying money for an immersive event or something like that, because you get a shitload out of that. But I like the idea of having something else that is super accessible.
Yeah.
And big.
Yeah, it's kind of, that's the thing, it's like, it's not, if you want a community to survive, people need to be able to make a living from it. People can make a living from Magic the Gathering, card game.
Oh, yeah.
I fucking love that game.
See?
Big fan.
Eyes lit up.
What is it? What is it? Smile today.
Drift in there for a minute. Somebody say magic.
What is it? Oh, it's a card.
Some card game where you
Game.
build decks
Super
and
good.
you,
Dungeons and Dragons.
Nah, that's
New
not
version,
like
right?
that's pretty much like that.
that.
That's where it is.
Little
We were out there on skateboards, they were inside playing Dungeons and Dragons.
I have another question. It's kind of on the same subject, but when you're taking the weekend workshop, you mentioned that you like to see yourself as an anthropologist over a sport scientist. Can you tell me more about that?
So it's kind of one of those things that I'm not a researcher or a professor at a university. I have some qualifications in this, but I don't test. I have no formal education, no PhD in this kind of stuff. I have some, but it's all self-research. But when I was looking at flexibility training, it's this question: when you're working in an anthropological framework, one to interview people and see what they say about themselves. So this is identity self-positioning. What do the groups actually say about themselves? So you ask people, for me, it's like, how do you actually train flexibility? And they'll tell you something, and then you go, okay, that's good. Then you observe them and find out how they actually train flexibility. Now, because I understand the techniques, you begin to see, like, say, similar stuff to the end range closing or compression work. You'll begin to see that appearing in different places, but they don't call it that. It's just built into their activity. And this kind of thing. So you're going like, well, people say they just do 30 seconds of this stretch, 30 seconds of that stretch. But what they're actually doing is high-speed ballistics through this section of a routine. Then they're, using everything in whatever context. Say dance is the easiest one to explain it in. So say contemporary dance. So they're using their flexibility in a soft and gentle manner against the floor, trying to be as relaxed as possible, moving. We're also moving with a quality called extension. We're trying to reach and open all the joints. Then they will also be entering and exiting all their flexibility from different positions, different joint angles, different things, spiraling in, linear. This gives a lot of variety, a lot of context to the usage of flexibility. Then they'll do all the same stuff but standing on their feet, with their knees bent, with their knees straight. They'll do it traversing a floor. They'll also do these things jumping through the air, trying to kick high. All these things, and then you go, actually, hold on. And then if you look at the lifetime of someone who starts at a dance school and they've spent 3 years doing all this stuff, they'll have a certain level of dance, but then all their uses of range of motion, like this is another test, I like to just test range of motion at dance school actively, and then at the end of it, retest it and see how much has changed. I can guarantee it's changed a fucking lot, but without formal training on it, because they've just learned to do it, and then it's constantly done over the day, and then it's just built into all their training or all their choreography or whatever class they're kind of doing, that then it begins to emerge. But we can just kind of dissect the techniques that work out, which is basically what I've done, then just put them into a more formalized context. Go, okay, you want this result, you need this type of training, that kind of thing.
So what you're saying is, you'll ask a dancer, okay, well, how do you get mobile? How do you stretch? And they say, I sit on the floor in the splits and chat to a friend for 2 minutes, or
that kind of thing.
And then they go dance.
Then they go
and
dance.
I'm saying that the dance is, well, the context of what they're doing is what gives them the range of motion and the strength of that range of motion. Do you watch what they do in context and then you take from that? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, this is where a lot of the task-orientated stuff, the external focus goes. So if we look at dance and gymnastics, so dance, you're trying to express a certain thing to the audience while getting a whole choreography that might be 5 minutes long out, even longer in the case of a show. So your flexibility gets used and emerged. As you get better on that, you can find the moments where maybe you'll stretch or not, but it becomes external. Same with, say, gymnastics. Like, if we look at what gymnastic stretch training is, and then if we look at the active side of things, so example, if we said, I want to do ballistic stretching, high speed, high displacement, low frequency ballistic stretching, gymnastic coaches are like, oh no, don't do that. But in their floor routine sequences, they will have people doing jump and kick your legs as high as possible, jump and do a straddle as high as possible, do it to catch it on high bars, which is a move that passes through a really deep straddle. So they're getting this high speed, high radial displacement flexibility work, but it's just not programmed in as flexibility work. It's how they're using it. Same with aerial and pole dance. They try to get the biggest lines possible. So what that means is they try to use their splits and over splits. What they're doing, I'm upside down, and then I'm actively pulling my leg deeper so it makes a nicer line. They're doing it for an aesthetic reason, but it's still this whole end range pulling in, end range deepening, that kind of active side that we worked a lot in the seminar. But they just don't call it that, because you ask them what you do for flexibility. It's like, oh, I go to the stretch class and sit in splits.
Yeah.
That's not the whole picture. So that's where the anthropology comes from. If I was just to go, what do you do to develop the flexibility? I'd be saying stupid shit like, we just go sit in splits for 3 minutes and sit in Tinder.
Sounds like a good afternoon.
It's a good afternoon. I don't know what you do yourself, but
It's kind of an organic, I guess that kind of evolved organically, right, though? So that was the nature of that activity, gymnastics or dancing.
yeah,
And then it was like, we'll do this other stuff, like separately, a little bit of passive work.
Yeah.
And the combination works, even if they weren't kind of aware of the fact that they were doing many different types.
yeah, exactly. That's kind of what it comes out to, some like it depends on the system, the gymnastics coach obviously, because some of them will understand this and structure it in a bit more successfully. But a lot of the time, like if we look at our gymnastics programs, a lot of the time, like there's the head coach, then all the assistant coaches are just kids who kind of grew up through the program, got to 16, 17, and done their assistant club coach qualification. They know gymnastics, but they know very little about actual training. But they just know, oh, we do this, and that happens.
Yeah.
It's also like in gymnastics, it's some ways it's like gardening, that we have the kids, we put them into certain environments. We know that through the process of iteration and coaching them through these skills, they'll get better, then they'll do more advanced skills, that kind of thing. It's always like the same way we learn, it's iteration. You're never really good at something the first time you do it. And if you are really good at something, then you do something harder. It's like music. How do we start off? We learn the basics, we play some scales, we get better, we learn some songs, we hear some songs, we'll learn some better songs, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of iteration process that a lot of people miss out on. A lot of people expect, just what I was point I'm making in the seminar, a lot of people expect to be able to display perfect flexibility or the perfect position, and then they can't, and then they just go, oh, I can't do it perfectly, I'm not going to do it. Whereas, like, say the way we coach Pancakes, we allow people to round their backs, not excessively, but we do allow it. We allow them to bend the knees, all this stuff, to get the right position. And then we know our iteration and our goal is to be flat back, flat legged. But we know, okay, we'll allow imperfection. And then we aim for perfect. Then when we get perfect, then you can go back and go like completely flat back into your pancake. And everyone's going, oh, amazing, it's flexible. That's the end goal.
Yeah. Yeah, that's, I mean, gymnastics of all things has that kind of idealistic approach, doesn't it, to a lot of its work. Like, it has to be perfect every time, and you know.
See, that's the thing, like I've coached kids in this, in circus, in like sports arco and circus, and it's not like that. That's the
I remember that video, yeah, those kids pressing.
Yeah, like I sent you videos, like just the video I sent to Joe was one of the top USA gymnastics kids coaches in the planet. He has been involved in multiple Olympians. We're going to shit on him a little. So. I'm not shitting on him, but I sent Joe a video was complaining that his press he was bending his arms on. So I sent him a video of these kids who are considered elite 14-year-olds in the States doing some press exercises. There's 10 of them in the group, and 6 of them had bent arms in their pressing.
Yeah.
And it's just like, that's okay. Because most of them will probably get college scholarships. And by the time they hit 18, 19, when they should be hitting their athletic peak in this, their arms will be locked every time.
Yeah.
But the intention was to lock the arms, they just couldn't do it at that moment. They couldn't express perfect form. So to go as an adult who's learning, who hasn't had like, if they're 14 in gymnastics, they probably started when they're 4 or 5. They've had 10 years of possibly twice daily coaching with good instructors, and have been placed in an elite program, so that like the cream of the cream in that section of the States. And they're still showing, oh, I've got bent arms. My toes aren't pointed exactly in the press. You have to accept that there is a bit of slop to be allowed.
Would you say that dealing with kids that age and dealing with adults though, like there would be different reasons why those guys are showing the habits they're showing in comparison to Joe doing the same thing?
I think I seen recently one of the kids who was in that video.
Right. Have a go.
You'd be like
Have a go.
tight and fucking
Come at me.
busted up and old and shit.
Yeah,
Kids.
yeah, it's kind of one of those things. It's like we just have to expect things are sloppy, and we're not going to do them perfect the first time. Kids, adults, whatever. Even if you're working within something that would be good for you, or that we have to pick our exercises that we do have the capacity to be perfect in them. Otherwise, you're working too advanced. But then when you get perfect or close to it, then we'll go something a bit more advanced. But it's kind of, well, we have different needs, I suppose.
There'd be more room for error for a 14-year-old as well. Would you say? I mean, they got the range of motion would be there and nice and elastic, and there's still a lot of collagen and that kind of stuff. They're not kind of set in stone as much.
Yeah, That's the thing. It depends on the movement. Like, say someone who's new. It's a classic example of deadlifting. Someone who's very new to training wants to learn to deadlift. I'm going to be rigidly fucking strict with hip hinging, flat back. I'll regress them to the point where they're doing like a Romanian or a pin pull rather than have them lift from the floor to begin with. If that same person,
like elevated,
elevated just like the bar on pins, so it's
Yeah.
like raised. So if they can only hinge to their fingertips below their knees, they'll pull in that. That same person 3 years later might have a 2.5 times bodyweight deadlift, and I'll coach them to round their upper back just to get a more efficient pulling position. So there's ideal form, we'll consider it, and then there's context specific. So go about that. But it's also like have the intention. It's always intention in a lot of these things. If you have the intention to get perfect form and kind of just push in that direction, eventually it will be emergent from our training. Whereas if we try to give someone too many cues and force them to everything at once, it's not going to happen. They're just going to hit a block. I had a good one. They're not on video, unfortunately, but I had a picture of one of the girls in training who her handstand line was good balancer. Handstand line was less than textbook when she started training in January. I didn't say anything about line to her. I gave her some exercises that were aimed at hand balancing. Because she got better and more efficient at balancing, her line went like from less than textbook to like beyond textbook in terms of like perfect vertical straightness, back completely flat, everything. But that was emergent from the training and the process was getting efficient. So it's kind of like if you have the idea of perfect form, it's like Olympic lifting. We have the idea of perfect form. As you get better a lifter, your form gets better. Unless you just muscle everything. But if you have this idea, okay, this is the perfect form, I'll work on this, I'll drill that, then it will improve. Whereas if you don't have the idea of perfect form, you're always just letting the arms bend like too early, they'll always do that. But even if you're starting out your career, things start bending early, but you still have that idea, no, keep them locked, keep them locked, keep them locked. Eventually it will emerge.
Have you ever trained any fighters?
Any fighters? No.
Oh wow.
Done like
Joe Worthington.
oh, Joe Worthington.
I know, like
Actual fighters.
Joey Worthington.
Sloppy Joe.
there'd be a market there, I reckon.
Yeah.
Have you ever tried like tapping into that or?
I haven't really, I haven't even had anyone approach me first, which is oddly enough because I think with Ito and McGregor working together, there would have been.
Who the fuck is that guy?
Yeah, exactly. Fucking hobos.
Where's McGregor gone, man?
The hardest thing McGregor's going to have to do is not like survive his fights, but survive having 100 million. He's fucked. Unless he can like channel it into something like, I don't know, maybe a charitable foundation.
So investment, something.
Investments, that's what, like the investment thing, he'd probably blow it all, unless he has some smart fund manager, but like, yeah, it's a lot of money for someone who likes to spend it on Versace.
It's true. But yeah, go on, I cut you off there.
But yeah, no, that really, that's the thing, the movement side of things hasn't really taken off in fighting, but it's kind of, yeah, I thought it would be more, but then I think Nate Diaz just ruined it all by calling Clutch Foot in the park.
Yeah.
So, I don't think most fighters want to do that.
Just as it was gaining momentum.
Just as gaining momentum.
I get teased about that all the time when I used to turn up at jiu-jitsu class. Oh, we're playing touch butt again. Yeah.
Shout out to Alex Potosovic, a friend of ours. Anyway,
But it's funny, man. Like with the we ran a workshop last year, a couple of them designed to teach jiu-jitsu guys and combat athletes in general how to just get more mobile and stronger in the stronger, more range of motion, all that. Because they all struggle, like they've all got terrible mechanics.
Yeah.
Great for their sport, but just really suboptimal for every other part of life.
Yeah.
And we've done that work. I've been part of the jiu-jitsu thing for 10 years. I've been working lately with teaching some wrestling to a rugby team, rugby club, and I can't help but see all the time now, because it's way more prominent in my own mind, that everybody just needs to get more range of motion. It's like all you guys are fucking strong, the girls are strong, but you need just a little bit more flexibility, and then you'll get even stronger and move better and be less prone to injury, be better at sport and all those things.
Yeah.
But it's so removed culturally from those practices.
Yeah.
But it's like, well, if I'm a fighter and I've got an extra couple of hours a week, I'm gonna do an extra grappling class. I'm not gonna fucking stretch.
Yeah.
You know?
That's the kind of thing you have to kind of, if it's not in the culture, you have to find a way to artificially put it in. Like, just an example on the fighting thing, so Taekwondo, if you go to Taekwondo class, they'll have you like bouncing up and down the splits the whole time and throwing big ass high kicks because they want to kick high and splits is a thing there.
Yeah.
Whereas Jiu-Jitsu, how can you get your legs apart just wide enough to get someone into your guard?
No wider.
Yeah. So it's kind of, there is that. I think it's one of those things that could add to it, but depends. I think the pros would get a lot of benefit from it, also because they have time. Whereas the average Joe who just likes doing 3 jits classes a week, it would work, but then you're taking away their enjoyment of the jiu-jitsu.
It's true, man, but I mean, yeah, I get that for sure.
Yeah.
But they have a limited time frame for how long they can enjoy it until they can't do it. And I don't, and I'm sure there's a couple out there, feel free to DM me.
Yeah.
But I've not really met a high level, like a brown belt or a black belt, who was feeling supple and comfortable and pain-free and good in their body.
Yeah.
It's fucking takes a toll, and most of the time, like obviously there's going to be injuries sustained that is unavoidable, but often it's just because they're fucking tired.
How do you feel, brown belt?
For me, like personally,
Yeah.
I feel pretty good at it.
Like your joints and everything?
Yeah, I
been
feel
through
pretty
the
good, but I've definitely kind of not taken jits that seriously, right, for a few years. So I train a little bit, and I think I'm kind of fortunate in that I have a reasonable amount of natural flexibility, and then I do plenty of strength training, so I think I'm a bit blessed with a good balance, and the fact that I've just backed it off and I don't train. I probably train at max like 2 or 3 days a week over the last 3 years. Whereas I know if I went back to my regular, like if I was competing, it was like 4, 5, 6 sessions a week kind of thing. Yeah. For sure, I'd be struggling. And I've had, I've had back injury and all sorts of shit from jits, even with whatever flexibility I have.
Yeah, but it's the nature of the game. It's a combat sport.
Yeah.
I would say, even though it's a sport rather than just like straight up fighting, the unexpected happens. And then, how do you prepare for the unexpected?
It's a really good question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Call Emmet.
I don't even think I can prepare you for the unexpected.
Jump on board.
Just
Come to Jungle Brothers.
Yeah, come to Jungle Brothers.
I got a couple of questions that we've had sent in from the crew. Can I fire them away now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got 3. We've got first one here is from. Let me just bring this up. First one is from Liam Hamilton. Shout out, homeboy. Question is, what are the top 3 must-do flexibility stretches or patterns?
That's it's one of these ones that it depends on your level and where you're coming in.
Give us let's say, let me give you a scenario. A 33-year-old male has played competition team sports, let's say soccer, late teens, 20s, pushed a bunch of weights around in the 20s. Now works a bit too much, has a kid, doesn't sleep enough, drinks alcohol on the weekends.
Yeah.
Dude.
Pushes,
Talking about me?
Just call me out, son. Yeah. But train back into training, doing that thing.
Basically training 3 times a week, something like that.
Yeah.
Your average training. So let's describe it. Basically, for this person, before we put them onto more advanced flexibility work, I would want them to be able to do 3 things. I want them to be able to sit comfortably in a squat. We'd use the squat as an assessment thing, like is their back grounding, are their shins too vertical, do they need more dorsiflexion, that kind of thing. I use overhead squats a lot for this population in particular to assess maybe if they need work on the lats, overhead stability, ankles, adductors, short adductors, that kind of thing, can be assessed that quite successfully. If they could I'd like to be able to sit comfortably in a squat first, with no shoes, just as it is. Hopefully first thing in the morning or as close to possible. I also want them to be able to get their hands flat on the floor on a pike. That kind of thing. It doesn't need to be excessive, but I do like that. Cold would be better, but some people would need a bit of a warm up, and that's okay. And then I'd like them to be able to get their hands overhead in flexion. So my handstand wall test.
Yeah.
Those three ranges, they're the ones that build all the other ranges of motion in my mind. It's like our squat builds our pancake and our side split. Our overhead position will build our bridge, our handstand. Then our pike just builds kind of the other bits that we miss.
Nice.
Hip extensions are harder one to measure because you must keep progressing it. But I'd like them to have. The problem is I'd like them to have some hip extension, which means actual true hip extension, that they'll have something there, whereas a lot of people just don't have something.
Talking about hip extension, what is, so you're talking like...
So femur going behind the body line.
Yeah.
Most people display 0 or even -5, whereas I like people to have, depending on their joint structure. The joint structure not going to be weird because it can go range, I think, of 25 to 45 degrees. So depending on your joint, you could have a lot of it, or you could only have a little, which is fine. But I want people to have some. Generally, with this population described, I wouldn't assess, I'd probably assess them with a Thomas test just to begin with, or a modified Thomas, just to get an idea. But then I'd look at, them jumping, look at the pelvis and the femur when they're jumping, when they're running. Do they get extension there? Is it displaying? Because static posture is one thing, but does it display in a dynamic context?
Yeah.
Then if it does, then okay.
I like that. Can we do a video after this of those 3 positions?
Yeah.
We'll put it out there for the crew that wants to see.
Yeah, no problem.
Second question. Big Red, also known as John Mullen. Where did you get your information from, and what sources do you consider to be most valuable?
That's a great question. So a lot of the stuff I've done or learned, I've done so many fucking courses over the years, with just all the standard ones you do as a fitness professional, that none of them I rate too much, but they always have a little bit or something interesting. In general, the 2 books I rate as good is Kit Laughlin's Stretching and Flexibility. That's very good for particularly dealing with a population who are less experienced with stretching and getting ideas. They have
Shout out Kit.
Yeah, shout out to Kit. They have some videos online, some video series. I've done a lot of workshops with Kit over the years as well. But they have some video series that are very good for explaining the positions. Maybe you wouldn't follow exactly how they do it, but you'll understand the positions quite nicely and how to set them up.
Yeah.
Then Thomas Kurtz is also pretty awesome. I like his stuff.
Stretching scientifically.
I like prefer the older edition to the newer one because I just prefer it. I think that's the 93 edition, not the 2003, something like that.
There's a difference in the text, huh?
He's changed a lot of the text, and he's done this mistake, I think, that Pavel done, because it's called Stretching Scientific. He used the scientific research coming out of Russia and Poland and stuff like that, which was of better quality than the stuff coming out of the States. But then he's put in a lot of the explanations from the States in the newest one and some of the references that weren't great quality studies compared to what I was using.
Okay.
Unfortunately, a lot of the studies in his book were only available in Polish when I went to try to find them, so translated and that kind of stuff, but they're still pretty good. His DVDs are good. There's one Flexibility Express, which is...
Do you know where one can buy a DVD player?
No, you can probably buy them online though. Probably download them. I think you should pay Thomas Kurtz at least for these, he's great. But there's one Flexibility Express where he's just displaying, he's 60 something in it. He's still got full side splits. At one point in the DVD, he gets a 40 kg kettlebell overhead, one arm, and in a side split, and then walks his legs in.
Whoa.
Back to a standing.
Back to standing. So he's in side splits, he's here, and just kind of walks his legs in. I'm just like, okay. He's 60, he's got no injuries as far as he's admitting to. Maybe he also does karate and fucking sparring and shit like that, so he's probably picked up a few there, but he still kick high. This is kind of what you're aiming for, so this is what I like from information sources that have lineage, either in terms of they've done it for 20 years, like Kit's done his thing. They ran their posture and flexibility, which became stretch therapy for 20 years in ANU, and they put, I think it was saying recently, they put 20,000 people through their program to come up to what they know.
Fine.
Wow. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of hands-on work with people, as well as they have all their teachers who they regularly would speak with and test out new techniques and other stuff. So when you have a lot of people like that working and a lot of volume through it, you're going to come up with some good stuff. Same with anything, like you said, we've put 20,000 grapplers through our program, and they just consistently got better because we're refining our methods as we go. It's going to be good, but you just don't get that too much in studies. What else is good? There's a really old, rare Pavel VHS, Pavel Satsulinev, if people remember him, Kettlebell Pavel from back in the day. He has a really good VHS, which is very fucking rare to find. They don't even publish it on the site. I was trying to find it again. But it's one of these ones I found it years ago, like when I still even before my second circuit school. So was that like 2001, so like 18 years ago. And it had all this cool pulsing ballistic stretching. And then I think someone told Pavel, no, you can't teach that in the West because ballistic stretching is evil, kill you and children.
Ballistic stretching, for those who don't know, is where you're moving in and out of the stretch at some kind of speed, right?
Yeah, basically. He was doing like all the stuff I was teaching at the weekend, like small pulses and big high kicks and shit like that. But he was just doing that. I was like, no ISIS or anything. But then I think someone had a word with him saying, it's too dangerous for the West, they can't handle it. So then he went on and released his Relax It to Stretch program, which is more.
Oh, wow.
It's basically kind of like stretching scientific. It sounds like you actually just ripped that book off or ghostwrote it.
Yeah.
But if you can find that bootleg VHS, like you're in a Vinnie's and you can find that stuff, like buy it and please send it to me. But it was really good because I can remember watching. It's also one of those things like it's this thing of like not trusting your sources. I had this experience where maybe we'll shoot that as a little thing. Yeah, maybe we will. But you guys have to make a bit of a video.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to make a little video after this then.
Yeah.
So there's this exercise I picked up to this date. I met these guys at a circus convention back in 98, I think. 98, 99. Sometime around 98, 99, 2000. They were twins and they had the best side splits I have ever seen to date. Now, they didn't have massive overside splits, they were just basically perfectly flat or close to it. But they just had this degree of looseness in the side split I've never really seen since. And they'd done an acrobatic class with me, and they were shit. They could barely touch their toes. Like one of them couldn't touch his toes, the other one could just about get his fingertips to his toes. Couldn't do bridge. Pancake when you brought the legs like narrower was pretty shit as well. So it's like I was like, oh, side splits to be this good. What's the secret sauce here?
Mm-hmm.
They showed me this ballistic stretching routine they got off their Chinese martial arts coach. And this was all you had to do, like horse stance, all their forms and shit, and this ballistic thing where they had to do like 200. He was told they had to do 400 reps a day, and one of them who had of the twins whose split was not as good as the other one. He was like, I only did 200 because it was going to be fucked. The other one who was more serious about the martial arts would do the 400. And the splits were amazing. So we're going to film this just as a little flexibility anthropological find that is very uncommon. But I started doing it and I started having really good results with it at the time. But then I went to circus school and I was doing it one day in the gym and the coach came up and had an absolute shit fist. They're like, no, you can't pulse and stretching, you're going to tear your shit. Me at age, whatever, 19 and a half, whatever, just going, I don't want to tear my shit, you know everything because you're a coach. I've never done it again until someone reminded me about it recently, and I was like, there's something a little flexibility oddly we haven't seen in a while. So, I'll film that, I think, because I'll film it down in the gym, you guys can put it out.
Yeah, that'd be does.
It's a nice little routine.
Mm.
But it's kind of this thing of like, the coach that I talk about, like, will remain nameless. I know them still, they don't fuck all about training, like, they genuinely knew nothing.
Yeah.
Or knew very little. They knew enough about like acrobatic and tumbling to coach that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But you always have to be careful who you actually go, who you believe.
Mm-hmm.
It's this thing. Be open and trusting. I think to a lot of people, they always mean well, but verify what they say. Always verify, either through your own experience, or searching like, don't do this. Why? Because that happens. Find out if that's true.
Open-minded with it.
Yeah.
A healthy dose of skepticism.
Yeah, just verify. It's like one of those things. We don't want someone who's ultimately confident of their opinion, their way is the only way.
Yeah.
Maybe it might be, but don't blindly believe people.
Mm-hmm.
You do listen to them. Always give people time of day. That's where you find out some gems. But once you actually try it out, you're gonna go, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Is it really?
Mm. You got more questions, T?
Yeah, we have another question from Aaron Howley. He's asking if you could speak a little about the central nervous system and the role it plays in mobility gains and methods to bypass and override. I'm not,
I'm not too sure what he means on bypass and override. In general, I was thinking from an educational point of view that I'm trying to educate the nervous system about what its potential is. So in general, we need to use techniques when we're beginning or just learning positions that bias towards the nervous system. So what I'll use a lot would be, say, the overcoming isometric, which is where we're pushing against the fixed thing that will not move. This works incredibly effectively, particularly when you're trying to move the shortening ranges of motion, where the joint angle is closing. Trying to get that stronger. So we'll find a range of motion that we can control. Then we'll push against something where we have power, really ramp it up. Then hopefully, depending on your physiology, you'll get a transfer of strength over about 15, 20 degrees. Some people are really fortunate the strength actually transfers over the hold range. They're the freaks of that, but some people do. So we'll use techniques like that. We'll also it depends on the technique as well, like say pulsing stretching, the evidence so far is pointing towards that it works more on the fascial and parallel elastic components. So that's a whole different subsection of flexibility that we could work on. The other thing is nervous system, it gets good at tasks you repeat over time, but it also gets better with a bit of variety. So we don't constantly want it repeating the same thing, the same stimulus. We want it to be able to display a bit of sloppiness, I suppose, maybe, but just, it's no good being perfect on the perfect day. We try to do it slightly different, play with slightly different angles. Our tasks, maybe say we're a pancake, we're reaching something straight forward, reach something straight off to the side, this kind of thing, get all these little corners or ranges of motion. That will educate the nervous system a bit better. It likes variety. The more variety you give the nervous system, the more stimulus it gets. So new things, new tasks, different speeds, different angular displacement, this kind of thing will help it. Other than that, it's if you take that context of the task-specific flexibility, the task-oriented flexibility, you don't have to worry too much about what the nervous system is doing, I think. Hopefully that kind of answers the question.
That's all that question from home. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?
I see myself.
What's your future path?
I have been thinking about that a lot lately. So I have the online coaching, which I do, which at the moment I take on 25 people on at once. It takes a long time. And at the moment I've got 60 something, nearly 70 people. I think we're actually over 70 over the last thing on the waiting list, which is sort of stretching for about a year and a half now. So I need to start taking some coaches on, hopefully, but it's this kind of thing I want to keep quality from it. I'm sure you guys are very concerned with this at the moment, you're growing as well, that we still need to keep the personal touch and all the reasons people come for the coaching, but we need to expand in a way that is kind of logical. For myself, I'm writing a book at the moment on flexibility, which is hopefully going to be telephone book size.
Yeah.
Old telephone book, not the new telephone books.
It's an old telephone book.
I like that Grey's Anatomy over there.
Oh, yeah. That's it.
So that will be, it's turning more epic, more and more epic every time I work on it. It's like, oh shit, what have I got myself into?
Be epic if you're in the splits and some small shots on the front.
Yeah.
Kurt style.
Kurt style. Get the girl with the massive hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's got to have the high cut.
Yeah,
One
the high
piece,
cut,
comes up. Yeah.
But I wonder if that look is coming back, I hope.
Oh, man.
Yeah. See? Any ladies listening out
On
there?
the internet, it never left.
They don't. Noted. Send me your stash. But yeah, so I'm writing the book, which I thought it would come out this year, probably won't be until next year. I've been toying with the idea of launching kind of, I don't want to say internship programs, I hate that term, but some kind of coaches program, which is much more involved. That will, I don't know, my own personal hate of the fitness industry is weekend courses where you become a master trainer or you become certified specialist or all this shit, where it's just like, congratulations, you've done a weekend course, you're now a certified specialist Muay Thai coach.
Yeah.
Like, you see, I've seen those things for jiu-jitsu, like Brazilian jiu-jitsu, 1 weekend
Oh,
fitness
yeah?
jiu-jitsu courses back home. Like, I can't do a course like that. I can't put my seal of approval on someone who's done a 2-day course. I know other people can, but no. So the program has to be much more involved. It'll probably be 200-hour program or something like that. So we're trying to figure out the logistics of getting that going.
Yeah.
Which would be good. But then toying with the idea of getting my own name off the business, getting more, maybe launching like a flexibility development institute or something like that, where we can train people in the methodologies and effective coaching that can also train other coaches and maybe make something a bit longer lasting. But these are all ideas.
How far into the book are you?
I have basically have the structure of the book. I keep having to add chapters, which is the problem. So it's about 12 chapters at the moment. I have the structure written out of each chapter's content. I have one of the chapters finished. I have the references for some of the chapters. I also have, like, the other thing is, like, we're going to film a lot of exercises, so we have to do that as well. So
Massive process.
yeah, it's like, I thought I'd get away with like 150-page kind of tome, but it's looking probably about 400 or 500 at least at the moment.
It's big, man.
And is the plan to keep travelling, to get back on the road and working from Thailand and stuff?
Yeah, well, we're going to go back to Ireland now. I'll be there for some time probably, but around Europe anyway for summer. It's one of those things, I enjoy being on the road, but I also don't.
Is it disruptive?
It's disruptive. It's just one of those things, it's very hard to get a plan going. Like, personally, my personality always tends towards, like, I know my body so well, so for training, I know exactly what I need to do to get this result, or I can adapt it very quickly. If I can't do the perfect thing, I'm very reluctant just to do anything. You know, coming as a coach, if some of my clients said that to me, I'd fucking tear them out of it.
Yeah.
But I feel I've earned this at my stage of career. But training consistently for like 20 plus years. So I'm claiming this one, but you know, I shouldn't really do it. It's my psychology. So it's like difficult for me to go, I'll train one arm handstands because like we'll go to Bali and you can't put your hands on the ground because they get eaten by something.
Yeah.
Or that kind of thing, or just even just like finding gyms that have consistent squat racks. This is what gets us a lot. We'll go somewhere what looks like it has a good gym or an acceptable gym. That's so good. They have no squat rack. They have no bars. Like, there's training in Bali. There's some gym there. It's okay. It's the best one in Ubud. Wasn't saying much, but they had bars, and I couldn't load them up to squat properly because they were the aluminium ones that were like 10 or 12 kilos.
Oh,
and
shit.
they would just bend, and I didn't want to wreck the bars.
Yeah.
It's like, you can't put 100 kg on this, it's just gonna go. So you get that. So, like, this kind of having a routine is difficult. That's kind of cooking food when you're on the road is a pain in the ass. You genuinely have to eat out most of the time. I like to cook my food, so it's like, oh, I'm eating out. It's okay, it's nice, but it gets a bit boring. It's like, I just want something simple sometimes. You just have to go speak to a waiter.
Something clean.
Yeah. So that gets a bit difficult. But other than that, like, it's cool. Get to meet you guys. Get to meet all the cool people I've met here in Australia, which is good. Shout out to everyone.
Every single one.
No, that's the thing. I think the Australian movement community is really cool. It's very different than what you see online from the community, which is good. Not just Australians, but like, you know, everyone I met here is really sound. We met the Get On movement down Wollongong.
Yeah.
They're like,
Shout out Will.
yeah, shout out to Will. All that. They're a bunch, like, they were cool. It was like, we had who we got in there? It's mainly tradies arguing over who's got the better side split. We had like a bricklayer and a plumber comparing their depths. For me, that's cool. That shows like we're not just like, you know, it's kind of like we're not just tapping into people who are bored with CrossFit market.
Yeah.
But We get people who are just like, oh yeah, this is cool.
Creating like a new market almost.
I wouldn't even say anymore. We're just giving people more options to do something that is cool and they're enjoying it, which is nice. And you guys as well. You guys are having fun now.
Shit, yeah.
How's the business
Awesome.
going?
Every
Yeah,
day.
really well.
Yeah.
Business is booming.
Yeah, things have changed a lot since last year for sure. We've got the bigger space now, hence our layoff for podcast for the last little while. But yeah, the gym's grown a lot. It's it's a big tribe now, and that's like you mentioned before. That's brought its own challenges with it,
Yeah.
But I think that's also what helps us sort of continue to do a better job.
Yeah.
Is to have those challenges and then find a way to fix it, surpass it kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of that thing where it's like, what are we doing? Are people still happy? Half your old members, like myself, when I change people from paying by phase to just monthly billing, I send this online. Monthly billing, same cost per annum. Other than that, we were just like, oh no, monthly billing. No, I'm out. It's like,
Yeah, right. Couldn't handle the adjustment.
couldn't handle the adjustment. I'm just like, some people are just like, they're still on, like, they pay by their phases. Just like working with them, and I'm just like, it's not a problem. They're like, no, I just can't do it. I have to do it this way. Whereas you guys are like, oh, we've got a bigger space now. It means we run 2 classes at once. 2 classes at once. I'm sure you have that kind of shit.
It's true. There's definitely been that, and for sure with the older members, we realised at the beginning, any disruption, there'll be a downside.
It's that fear of the unknown I was talking about. People are like, oh, we've got a bigger space with more equipment. That's going to be awesome. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when we first moved in here, all the gym was like crammed into a corner together. No one was really spreading out.
Yeah.
I think I went institutionalized by the old space. But yeah, it was funny.
That was funny.
Yeah,
We have 100 square meters. Do not move out.
yeah.
Yeah.
What's the gym
But
now?
I
Like
don't
4
think anyone
times the
could
size
go
of
back
the
now. Yeah, 4 times. 4 times the size.
Nice.
Nah.
4 times, bro. I told everyone 4 times.
This guy.
You tell people all sorts
I
of
thought
stuff.
7 times, bro.
Feels like 4 times the size. 3 times the size. 3.5.
It's double for those who are interested in knowing.
Is it?
It's double.
It's more than double, bro.
No, it's at least 8 times.
Way more.
I'm in between here. I'm going to say three times.
Fair.
Yeah, 3 times. I agree.
You've got 2 toilets now, so you know.
2
And
toilets.
showers.
It's true.
Double the amount of toilet space.
We will have 4 times the size once our mezzanine goes up as well.
There'll be 4 times the size then.
Nice.
Now, is there somewhere where people can find you and find, like get connected to Instagram, Facebook, website, whatever?
Yeah, so Instagram is pretty good to get me. Facebook is good, but let's face it, Facebook is dying.
You reckon?
Facebook is going to MySpace, hopefully.
Holy shit! Is this because of the latest scandal?
It's just like like the latest guy. It's just going to be a string of these things afterwards. Like one, anyway. I think there was some conference and all this tech things, and Zuckerberg pissed off a lot of people, like Murdoch and that shit. So you're going to see negative things from Facebook anyway. But what you're going to see is it's reached peak. Like I go onto Facebook now. I have to install separate apps on my computer just to make it usable. Shout out to Fluff Busting Purity. It's a great app. It just you can change all the options. So you don't get all those shitty things. You can filter off your racist cousins, all this kind of thing.
Nice.
But like, it's one of those things. Like,
That's so true. That is so necessary.
Yeah, but like, there's too much shit on it, and the algorithms change. For me, as someone who kind of runs a business through it, my reach has gone. So I put a post on my page.
Goes nowhere, right?
I get maybe 200 likes on it, and I could see it would hit about half my fans on the page. It was pretty good. Could boost it and get more. Now I put a post up, and maybe 50 people will see it. It's just, it's not worth me investing my time when Instagram is okay for a moment. But it's just like, what's the point? YouTube is good. Recently broke 10,000 fans on YouTube.
Fuck yeah.
Which is
Congrats.
pretty good for only having like 50 shit videos. Or
Nice.
good. Yeah, but we're going to
Your
put...
videos are good there.
Yeah, the videos are good. They're just like, they're along with my aesthetic. We do everything slightly shit, but that's okay. The information is good. The information is good.
Yeah.
So it stands
So
above
look
it.
too good, then people would be questioning your credibility.
Yeah, it's one of the, people would be expecting more if they look too good.
Yeah.
Whereas now they just go, okay, it's Emmet and shit. It's fine. But yeah, YouTube is good. Our website is going to have more stuff on it over the next year once we settle down. So that's emmetlewis.com.
Yeah.
Other than that, the other main ones, get all the information there. More information. Instagram is the best one at the moment.
Yeah, sick.
Fuck you, Zuckerberg.
Man, we'll put a link up to that stuff in
Yeah,
the
you-
show notes, and we'll also put up some stuff. We're going to shoot a video, right?
Yeah, we're going to shoot a video now.
We're going to shoot the video now, so we'll spread that shit on Facebook. We'll even boost it a little bit,
Yeah.
get the word out there. But man, thanks for coming on again. Thanks for coming back down for your third appearance at JB's as well.
No problem. Thank you guys for hosting me. Always like the seminars here, they're always just the most fun. The first two I've done were just fucking chaotic insanity, which was great, just in terms of everyone shut up.
Yeah.
The last one was just like, it was the perfect end to this Australian tour, because I'd show the exercise and didn't have to do anything because everyone was coaching everyone. Well, give some pointers every now and then. Like, the more advanced people all paired up with like someone less advanced, so they're able to guide them through it. And I'm just like, what are we doing here? You guys play this shit, I'm having coffee, so
Oh,
it's
man.
a good crew.
Yeah, sick. Well, man, fuck, it's always good to have you in.
Yeah, no
Give
problem.
us new stuff. And
Yeah.
yeah. I should give a shout out to our boy Lucas, to Luca Coffee, giving us fuel today.
Thank you.
Yeah, he'll give
Keeping
us.
you fueled.
Yeah, volunteer on the caffeine, so Emmet and I have been pounding this week.
Lost the caffeine.
Yeah, right, they salute the caffeine and chocolate. But yeah, hooking us up. He's got a spot down in Botany, down at Banks Meadow Shops. Get down there, get his coffee. DeLucaCoffee.com. Anything else we need to mention?
Let's shoot the video.
Let's go do it.
Yeah.
Alright, sick.
Cool.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate you.
No, thank you guys for having me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mad episode today with Emmet Lewis. Big thanks to him for coming out again. We actually filmed a couple of videos off the back of that too, which are going to be up on our Facebook page real quick. But there's the 3-part real simple mobility test that he took us through, which was like crazy simple, really easy way to test where your flexibility's at.
Benchmarks.
Yeah, benchmarks. Your man. Keep an eye on that. That video is going to come out. And the other video was also a little hack that he remembers for the side split, which was a real cool little old school drill that he taught us from one of his old acrobatic mates. So keep an eye out for them. Big thanks to our sponsors today, DeLuca Coffee, the most badass coffee in Botany. Shout out Lucas, the owner who trains with us. DeLucaCoffee.com if you're looking for any of the goodness, or if you're coming down to the hood and you're going to stop by the gym, drop in and get a coffee there. And also Primal Collective. Those guys keep us dosed up with lots of primal food goodies. PrimalCollective.com, you can check them out. Real quickly, coming up in the gym, we've got Yuri Marmestein coming up April 14th and 15th. He'll be teaching an acrobatic and hand balancing workshop here. He's flying out from Vegas, so if you can get in for that, get in, because he's an interesting cat and he's only here once a year or thereabouts. I didn't intend for that to rhyme. Following April 21 to 27, I got my retreat in Bali, which is a Jungle Brothers and Human Evolution Lifestyle Project collab. 6 days in paradise, lots of training, lots of coconuts, good food. Get in touch if you're interested. And then we got Rafe Kelly coming in on April 28 to 29. He's teaching a 2-day workshop. I think we're going to be running through trees and shit, so bring your shin pads. Yeah, that's all from us. If you want a hand with any of your training, if you want to talk and just get a bit of a consult on it, if you want to find out how to get more flexible, you want to get strong, or if you just feel like you're not absolutely frothing on your training, then you should definitely get in touch. JungleBrothers.com, real simple. Click the button, learn more, and you can just chuck your details in and we'll give you a call in person, not a bot. You can also get us through the Facebook or the Instagram, Jungle Brothers Movement. DM us there, whatever. Just reach out. We'd love to chat with people who are interested in, progressing their lives forward and getting the most out of their training. So we'd love to help.
Nice. Yeah, thanks. I've got to try our sign out line, Joe, which I think should be our sign out line from now on.
Throw it.
Yeah? You good?
I'm ready.
All right, man. Let's grab some lunch.
Oh,
Oh, now hang on. Let's get lunch. Oh, I can eat. It's something like that.
sick.
We're working on it. All right. All right. See you guys.
See you guys.
Till next time.